All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something I think we all grapple with, at least to some degree, human insecurity.
Yeah, it's one of those things that just seems to be a part of the human experience.
Definitely. And we've got some fascinating material for this deep dive. It comes from, well, this might sound a little unexpected, some AI analysis.
Yeah, AI really coming in to help us understand ourselves better. And what we've been looking at really digs into why we feel this unease, that kind of nagging sense of not being enough or not having enough. You know that feeling?
Oh yeah, I know it well. And I'm guessing many of our listeners do too.
I think so. So in this deep dive, we're going to try to pinpoint what's really at the heart of this insecurity and then really get into what happens when we're constantly always wanting more.
Sounds like a plan. And for you, our listener, if you're the kind of person who wants to get to the core of things quickly, to really understand the whys behind the stuff we all deal with without getting bogged down in a ton of extra detail, well, stick with us.
Yeah, we aim for those aha moments where things just click into place.
Exactly. So let's jump right in. What does this AI say is at the very core of why we feel insecure?
So the AI lays it out pretty clearly. It basically boils down to this: the gap between what we believe we need and our actual ability to meet those needs.
Okay, that makes sense. But it's got to be wider than just basic survival stuff, right? Food, shelter, all that.
Oh, absolutely. It goes way beyond that. The AI includes emotional needs, our place in society, finances, even our sense of purpose.
Wow, that's a lot of ground to cover.
It is, but it's also kind of freeing to think about it in those broader terms. Like that feeling of lacking, it can come from inside us, from our own thoughts and anxieties, or it can be a reaction to real threats in the world, or even just, comparing ourselves to others.
So true. Okay, so when we're talking about needs, what are the fundamental ones that are really at play here?
The AI organizes them into a hierarchy, which is super helpful, starting with, like you mentioned, the physiological ones, the absolute essentials for survival. So food, water, shelter, warmth. We need sleep, and of course, basic health.
Yeah, you can picture a newborn baby.
Right.
They need nourishment, they need warmth. That's as basic as it gets.
Exactly. And it's interesting how these basic needs, they change as we move through life.
How so?
Well, think about an elderly person. They might need consistent access to healthcare. That's still rooted in that physiological need, just expressed differently than for an infant.
Oh, that's a great point. Okay, so what's the next level up?
The next layer is safety needs. This is about security, stability, feeling safe from danger.
Feeling secure, yeah.
It includes personal safety, obviously, but also financial security, health security, even job security.
You can see it so clearly, can't you? A child's face during a war or a natural disaster, that pure terror, that's the need for safety being totally shattered.
Right. And for adults, think about the anxiety that comes with the thought of losing your job. It's not just about the money. It's about that deeper need for stability in life, for knowing what to expect.
Makes sense. So we've got our basic survival needs, then safety and security. What comes next?
Next, we move into love and belonging. This is our need for connection, for intimacy, friendship, for feeling like we're part of something larger than ourselves.
Teenagers, right?
Yeah.
Navigating those social circles, wanting to be accepted by their peers, that's all about belonging.
Exactly. And it continues into adulthood. The longing for meaningful relationships, the discomfort of isolation. Historically, as the AI points out, being part of a tribe wasn't just about companionship. It was essential for survival.
Like literally needing others to survive.
Right. Okay, so we're moving up this hierarchy of needs. What's the next level?
Let me guess. Something about feeling good about ourselves.
You got it. Esteem needs. This is about our self-respect, our confidence, our sense of achievement. It's also about how we're perceived and recognized by others.
It's like that little kid who finally learns to ride their bike, Their face just lights up with pride.
Yeah, totally. And for adults, it might be wanting recognition in their career or in their community, contributing something meaningful. The AI also mentions that different cultures have certain milestones, achievements that bring you respect when you reach them.
Interesting. So at the very top of this pyramid,
We reach self-actualization. This is the drive to be our best selves, to grow, to feel fulfilled. And what this actually looks like is totally unique to each person.
so like an artist who's constantly pushing their creative boundaries, or a scientist on the verge of a major discovery.
Yes. Or just someone who's living in line with their values, doing what feels deeply right to them.
Okay, so we've laid out these fundamental needs, but here's the thing that's always baffled me. If we have these needs, Why do we constantly want more than what we need?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Why do we always want more stuff, more money, more everything?
More, more, more. It never seems to end.
Well, the AI actually offers some really compelling explanations for this. Let's start with an evolutionary perspective. Back in the day, having more resources, more food, a safer place to live meant you were more likely to survive and pass on your genes. So that instinct to accumulate more, well, it's kind of baked into us.
Makes sense. Like the early humans who were best at gathering or hunting, they had an advantage.
Exactly. Then there are the psychological reasons. Think of possessions as a kind of security blanket. They give us a sense of control, especially in a world that often feels unpredictable.
Oh yeah, like saving money for a rainy day. Or the stability of owning your own home.
Right. Then there's the whole social comparison thing. In many societies, wealth and possessions have become a way to signal your status. And we all, consciously or unconsciously, compare ourselves to others.
You see it all the time. The kind of car someone drives, the clothes they wear, it's all part of the game.
Sadly, it is. And then there's this concept called the hedonic treadmill. We get a burst of happiness when we get something new, but it fades quickly. And then we need the next new thing to get that feeling back.
The classic example is upgrading your phone every year.
Yeah.
You get that initial high, but it wears off so fast.
It really does. And then, even if we have enough, there's often this fear of scarcity. Maybe it comes from, like, historical famines or hard times. That fear makes us accumulate even more than we need just in case.
Oh, I know people like that. They live through tough times and they hold on to everything.
Yeah, it makes sense when you think about it. And finally, we can't ignore the impact of our culture and society. We're bombarded with advertising that tells us happiness comes from buying things.
It's like everywhere you look, there's a message telling you to buy something to feel better, to be more successful, to be more attractive.
It's everywhere. The AI actually uses a really interesting analogy to describe all this. Trying to eat more food than you can comfortably chew.
I like that.
Yeah.
Simple, but it gets the point across.
Right. And it goes beyond just stuff. Taking on too many commitments, chasing goals that are impossible to reach. That excess just leads to stress and unhappiness.
We're so busy grabbing for more that we forget to actually enjoy what we have. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about parents. Most parents have this incredibly strong desire to provide a better life for their kids. Why is that such a powerful drive? And why isn't it enough to just teach them skills and let them figure things out on their own?
Yeah, I mean, you want your kids to be resilient, independent, but there's also this instinct to protect them, to give them every advantage you can.
Absolutely.
The AI points to a few key reasons. First, there's this biological imperative to make sure our offspring thrive. Then, of course, there's love and care. Parents naturally want the best for their kids. Maybe they even hope their kids will have opportunities they didn't.
Makes sense. You want to try and pave the way a little, right?
Yeah, totally. And there's a social pressure, too. Many cultures expect parents to be responsible for their children's well-being and their success.
So it's not all just warm and fuzzy feelings.
Right. By providing resources, good food, education, financial support, parents are trying to reduce the insecurity their kids might face in the future.
So teaching your kids practical skills is important.
Absolutely essential. But it's not the whole story.
Right.
The AI makes the point that kids also need their basic material needs met. That frees them up to focus on learning and growing without constantly worrying about scarcity. They need access to good education, which often costs money, the right social connections, and a stable, loving environment.
So just throwing kids into the deep end and hoping they'll swim is not really setting them up for success.
Exactly. It can actually create more insecurity and limit their opportunities from the start. And potentially, even continue those cycles of disadvantage.
Okay, let's talk about another interesting thing we humans tend to do. We want multiples of things. Why is just one of something often not enough for us?
The urge to accumulate. I'm definitely guilty of that. We all are, to some extent. The AI has a few explanations for this. Sometimes it's practical. You have backups in case something breaks, or different options for different needs, like different clothes for different weather.
Well, that's just being prepared, right? You need a warm coat and you need shorts.
Exactly. But then there's the desire for variety. We like new experiences, new sensations. So having different versions of things keeps things interesting.
Like trying different restaurants instead of always going to the same one.
Right. And let's not forget about social signaling. Owning multiple luxury items can be a way to show off your wealth or status, or just your taste.
The guy with a collection of expensive watches, for example.
Yep, that's a classic example. We also buy multiples to prepare for future needs, like stocking up on something when it's on sale. or having extra chairs for guests.
I do that all the time.
And then there's the emotional attachment factor. We hold on to things because they have sentimental value.
Oh, those boxes of old photos and mementos, I know all about those.
We all have them. So while being happy with just one of everything might seem efficient, it doesn't really match how we're wired. Okay, let's zoom out a bit and think about the bigger picture. This not enough mentality, it affects so many areas of our lives. What impact do you think it has on our society as a whole?
It seems like it drives our entire economic system, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It fuels consumerism and economic growth. But the AI points out that this can lead to unsustainable consumption. We're constantly being pushed to buy more, newer things. And then there are the social effects.
Like what?
Well, it can create inequality as people compete for resources and status, but it can also drive innovation as individuals and companies try to create new and better things.
A bit of a double-edged sword.
Definitely. And the environmental impact is huge. Our demand for more is putting a strain on natural resources, causing pollution and contributing to climate change.
And on a personal level, this constant striving for more can lead to stress and anxiety, and it can make us less appreciative of what we already have.
You're constantly looking ahead instead of enjoying the present moment. And this brings us back to your really insightful point about time being a finite resource. Why do we so often prioritize money over time, even though time is the one thing we can't get more of?
It's a question I wrestle with a lot. Time just seems to slip away so easily.
Well, this not enough mentality often makes us think that if we just get enough money, we'll be secure and happy in the future. But we end up sacrificing time with loved ones, time for hobbies, time to just relax. And we're always chasing the next financial goal instead of living in the moment.
It's like we're tricked into believing that money can buy us more time, or at least buy us better experiences later on.
Right. But in reality, time keeps ticking regardless of how much money we have. And this connects so well with the perspective you shared about teaching your children that everything is temporary.
Yeah, that impermanence of life. It really changes how you view things.
It makes you wonder about those who accumulate massive amounts of wealth, like billionaires. What's the point when life is so fleeting?
All right, what are you really working towards at that point?
The AI brings up the concept of diminishing returns. Past a certain point, more money doesn't equal more happiness, and you have to think about the opportunity cost. All that time and energy spent chasing wealth, it could be used for other meaningful things, philanthropy, or creative pursuits.
Well, just enjoying life.
Exactly. And it does raise ethical questions. When so much wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few, what does that mean for society as a whole?
It makes you wonder if all that wealth could be used to tackle big problems, like poverty or disease.
It's a valid point. And it leads us to the final question the AI explores. Why do we so often resist the idea of enough?
Yeah, why can't we just be content with what we have?
It seems like we understand it intellectually, but it's hard to put into practice.
Definitely.
The AI suggests it's a combination of things. Our evolutionary drive for security, the social pressure to acquire wealth and status, we're fighting against some pretty powerful forces.
And there's that fear of the future. We want to be prepared for anything.
Right. Plus, we might overestimate how much happiness material possessions will bring us, and underestimate the importance of things like relationships and experiences.
And at the end of the day, what enough means is different for everyone.
Exactly. Our values, our priorities, our self-awareness, all those things play a role.
So it's a complex mix of factors that keeps us stuck in this cycle of wanting more. So to wrap up our deep dive today, we've really explored this core concept of human insecurity, that gap between our needs and our ability to meet them. We've looked at why we always want more than what we need, from those primal instincts to the influences of our culture. And we've considered the impact of this not enough mindset on our world and on ourselves.
And the AI leaves us with a pretty profound thought. If we really understand where our insecurity comes from, and if we question this constant need for more, we might actually be able to create a more balanced and sustainable way of life for everyone.
And your perspective about the impermanence of life, I think that adds a really important layer to this. It makes you realize what's truly important.
It does, doesn't it?
So here's a final thought for you, our listener, to ponder. Knowing that everything is temporary, what's one more that you could let go of? Maybe it's a possession or a goal you're chasing, even a worry. What could you let go of to appreciate what you already have? Or to make the most of the time you have right now?
That's something to think about.
It is. All right, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening.
This is DigitView.